every serial killer was caught, lock in.
John Wayne Gacy's reputation as a respected member of the community and part-time clown was about to crumble and lead to one of the darkest discoveries in American history. In December,
I feel like John Wayne Gacy, in hindsight, was like not one of the most obvious serial killers, but like, my God, dude, he dressed up as a clown and hid people under his floorboards. What the
For 1978, Elizabeth Peast immediately knew something was wrong. Her 15-year-old son, Robert, had gone out to talk to a local businessman about a summer job. Robert never came home. The businessman's name was John Wayne Gacy. The police tracked down Gacy quickly.
Did he do that? Did he do that with everyone? What the fuck? How did he kill that many people? He gave a kid his business card, and the kid told his mom, and then he was just like, all right, well, he's missing. He wants to go see this guy.
And investigators started digging and discovered he'd served time in Iowa for attacking a teenage boy. They also learned that several missing young men in the area had last been seen heading toward Gacy or working for him. So a judge approved.
I always wonder, though, like, this situation that made him get caught and then they found, like, the 30 bodies or whatever, do you think that if that hadn't happened, nobody would have ever known? Like, do you think those bodies would have just sat under his house till he died? I feel like at some point, bro, they would have figured that shit out. Was he gay? A lot of serial killers, a lot of historic serial killers would go after young men. John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer.
A search warrant for Gacy's home. In
other ones, I don't know. There's probably going to be other people on this list.
Inside, detectives found clothing that didn't belong to him.
Why, though? I mean, serial killers largely would go after people that weren't going to be looked for. I mean, it might be like a fantasy thing. I don't know. But it's also like they would go after, a lot of serial killers would kill prostitutes or young men because they like I think Jeffrey Dahmer would go to like gay bars and then kill young men.
Identification belonging to other young men and a strange smell seeping from the crawl space. That wasn't enough for an arrest, so they put him under 24-hour surveillance, while they built their case and got another warrant. This time what they found was horror beyond imagination. Following the smell, they looked more closely into that crawl space. There, they discovered human remains. Then more remains, and more after that. Eventually, they would recover 29 bodies from the home. Gacy was arrested on December 22nd, 1978.
Didn't he have a wife? I feel like so many of these serial killers are like married and their partner like didn't know. And I'm like, how did you not know? How did you not know that your husband was shoving people under floorboards? Or like Ted Bundy. Like Ted Bundy didn't kill his wife, but he would kill other random women that he would like come across and murder. But like she didn't know. I'm not like accusing her that she knew. I'm saying like, how the fuck did they hide that? Like you live with this person.
Fest, though he tried to claim an alter ego named Jack had committed the crimes. He also later drew maps of where bodies were buried in his crawl space, numbering them like a grotesque inventory. The trial was a media circus, perfect for a clown like Gacy. He was found guilty and sentenced to the ultimate punishment. Jeffrey Dahmer.
Bro, I feel like getting sentenced to death is not as bad as life in prison. I know it's more like comforting in the sense of like, okay, get this fucking guy out of here. But I feel like that's like an easy way out, bro. Like, living in jail, bro, being in prison sucks. Like, I mean, maybe some people like it, but I feel like he died in prison. Well, yeah. Or he might have died. Being on death row doesn't mean you're going to die from lethal execution necessarily, especially if you're old. I don't know how old he was when he got sentenced, but depending on the state, even now specifically, if you get put on death row in states where it's still legal, you might be on death row for like 20 years. Bro, Jeffrey Dahmer's, I remember hearing that Jeffrey Dahmer would have people constantly question him. And he said that he, like, butchered his own meat or something, and that's why it fucking smelled like dead bodies. Like, he would give the worst excuses, and people would just be like, okay.
Brilliant detective work, but because one man refused to have his life taken. On July 22nd, 1991, around
Well, that Jeffrey Dahmer, dude, Jeffrey Dahmer would also, I don't know about every serial killer, but I know about, like, I've watched documentaries about, like, you know, the fucking most notable ones. Jeffrey Dahmer used to try and make people, like, sex slaves. Like, he would, like, drill holes. He would drug them, but then he wouldn't kill them immediately. He would, like, drill holes in their brain and, like, put liquid in their, like, certain chemicals in their brain to try and, like, I don't know, fucking put them in some sort of zombie state where they would, like, listen to him or some shit. Yeah, it was like acid. I don't know. I gotta Google that. What would he do? What did Jeffrey Dahmer do to make people, quote, zombies? Yeah, he tried to make sex slaves who would not leave him by performing lobotomies on his victims and drill holes into their skulls and inject hydrochloric acid in boiling water into their brain to render them permanently unconscious but alive. And then his dad, I remember I saw one where he had a box with a head in it. And his dad was like, "What the fuck's that?" And it was closed. And he was like, "Dad, don't open the box. Like, open it tomorrow." And the dad was like, "Okay." And then he got rid of it. But there was a head in the box. And he didn't know. And they talk about it in an interview, like, years later after he was caught. And he was like, "Yeah, there was, like, a human head in that box."
midnight in Milwaukee, 2 police officers spotted a man running down the street with handcuffs dangling from his wrist. Tracy Edwards was frantic, terrified, and begging for help. He said a freak had tried to restrain him in a nearby apartment. Edwards led the officers to the location, apartment 213. A calm, polite, blond man answered the door, Jeffrey Dahmer. He tried to explain the situation away as a misunderstanding between drinking buddies. Okay, fine, but the officers needed that key to the handcuffs, so they stepped inside. As one officer walked toward the bedroom, he noticed a number of Polaroid photographs scattered in an open drawer. The photos showed Dahmer's victims in various stages of his crimes. The officer froze, then said to his partner, "These are for real." Dahmer realized it was over. He tried to fight the officers, but wasn't used to attacking sober victims, so they handily pinned him down. This time, Dahmer was the one in handcuffs. What they found...
Bro, I'm happy they caught him there because there's so many instances where, like, I talked about this before with, like, Ted Bundy, dude. They would have him and they'd be like, "Oh, it's that guy," but they didn't know, like, his name. They just, like, saw his face and he would just, like, jump out of a window and run away. Or they'd pull him over in a car and he would have, like, a body in the trunk and he would just be like, "Hey, yeah, no, just on a drive." And he would match the description and they would just let him go.
Next was beyond comprehension. A victim's head in the refrigerator, 3 more in the freezer, various other body parts stored in a filing cabinet.
That's crazy he let them in his house. I mean, maybe they had, like, reasonable enough, like, maybe he wouldn't be able to deny them entry, but, like, did he think that he would let them in the house, give them the key, and then they would just leave?
Photographs documented everything. Dahmer initially denied it all, but began confessing after several hours of interrogation once detectives confronted him with the mountain of evidence.
And it's really weird, too. It's like they initially try to hide it, but then they'll brag about it later on. Like, a lot of the time, the serial killers will try to keep it under wraps, but then once it's like, "All right, well, I'm going to go to jail," they'll be like, "Okay, let me tell you everything." And then they'll just fucking ramble about how they would kill the people.
Someone so obsessed with preserving things, he never expected the chilling truth would thaw that day.
Okay, can we stop with, like, this how it's made ass voice right now? Like, what is this cringe ass shit right now?
In the summer of 1985, the Night Stalker was breaking into homes in the dead of night, attacking people in their beds with brutal, random violence. The attacks had no pattern, different neighborhoods, different types of victims, different methods. The randomness made him nearly impossible for police and the public to predict. Then, detectives caught a break. They spotted the same shoe print at multiple crime scenes. This confirmed they were after one attacker. Then they caught another break, this time bigger. At one crime scene, investigators found a...
Bro, what's so disturbing, and I know it's like obviously so many of these serial killers were in the 1970s and 60s and 80s where they were able to, like, get away with this because lack of modern technology and, like, you know, police forensics and other information that they have available now. But even, you know, if you weren't, like, some sadistic torturer and you just wanted to straight up kill people, like, if you were alive in this set in the 1960s, you could just, like, drive town to town in the middle of the night, wait until somebody's outside of their house and shoot them in the head, and then just drive off. And they would never catch you.
Single fingerprint on a car that the perpetrator had stolen. That print was matched
Because they're not going to track the bullet, and then you just ditch the gun.
to Richard Ramirez, a 25-year-old drifter with a record.
Yes, they would. Brother. I have had this conversation so many times. Getting away with murder was so fucking scarily easy in, like, the 60s. Or, like, way before. Like, even, more specifically, like, the 1800s. Like, back when people would duel. Like, you could just kill somebody and walk away, and if there wasn't a direct witness, it's over.
Investigators had a face and a name. Police released Ramirez's mugshot to the media on August 30th. His photo was plastered on the front of every newspaper in California. That same morning, Ramirez was in Arizona, completely unaware he'd been identified back in Cali. When he took a Greyhound bus back home and got off in East LA, he saw his own face staring back at him from a newspaper rack. El Matón, the Spanish-language newspaper, read, "The Killer." Ramirez panicked and ran. Ramirez jumped a fence into someone's backyard and then tried to drag a woman out of her car. Her husband didn't approve. And
I feel like the thing with, like, prints, whenever they talk about fingerprints, with, like, crime shows specifically, it's like fingerprints are useless unless you've been fingerprinted. You know what I mean? Like, unless you've previously committed a crime or gotten fingerprinted to be, like, a teacher or get a gun license or, like, a variety of other things. If you're not on the print record, that's not doing anything. It would match you to the crime if they find you. But, like, if you've never been printed, it doesn't matter. Family member? I don't know if family member prints align, do they?
went after Ramirez with a metal bar. He ran again. He tried to steal another car, but the owner grabbed him and they fought. Ramirez broke free and ran into a nearby neighborhood. Now people were shouting, pointing, and chasing. El Matón ran again. More neighbors joined in the chase. One man grabbed Ramirez and held him. Others piled on, hitting him with pipes, fists, whatever they had. By the time police arrived just minutes later, an angry mob had the Night Stalker pinned to the
Holy fuck, dude. That seems like some shit out of fucking Michael Myers. The whole town just started attacking him.
ground. Deputies had to protect Ramirez from being torn apart.
Oh, yeah, dude. They probably would have killed him.
"Save me, save me." The Night Stalker was screaming as police dragged him away and put him in jail for the rest of his life. His nights of stalking had come to an end. For years, Aileen Wuornos trusted no one until
Aileen Wuornos?
she trusted the wrong person. And that mistake, Aileen Wuornos
Oh, I've heard of her. Wouldn't she... Oh, my God. And maybe I'm thinking of the wrong person. Wouldn't she pretend to be a prostitute and then kill men that would pick her up?
Aileen Wuornos trusted no one until she trusted the wrong person. And that mistake was what finally brought her down. In 1990, bodies kept appearing along Florida highways.
Yeah.
6 middle-aged men, all taken out with a .22, all found in the woods. Their cars gone, their wallets empty. Then, investigators got the break they needed. Police found the car of one of the victims wrecked and abandoned, with a fingerprint on the wheel and a palm print inside. The prints led them to Aileen Wuornos, a 34-year-old pleasure worker, and her trusted friend, Tyria Moore. Then came another break. Detectives noticed something odd when looking into pawn shop records. Florida law required thumbprints for every transaction. The items belonging to victims kept showing
Oh, my God. Kept getting pawned off.
up, pawned by 2 women using fake names. But the thumbprints required
Bro, I recently learned how certain pawning doesn't mean selling. Like, if you go to a pawn shop and I'm like, hey, I want to pawn this chain, they'd be like, you could sell it to us for $6,000 or pawn it for $4,500. And if you pawn it, you basically are like, they're giving you money and they're taking your chain as collateral. They're giving you a loan and you could get it back. Pawn shops will still buy your shit. But like, bro, and I know you guys are calling me an idiot. I grew up watching Pawn Stars. And Pawn Stars, they would just buy and sell stuff. So I always assumed that pawn shops were just places you would go sell stuff. I didn't know that you could go and be like, hey, I'm going to pawn this. You're going to give me less money, but it's basically just a loan that I have to pay back with interest in a certain amount of time, or you'll keep it. And then they profit. They either profit on the loan or they profit on the collateral. So either way, they're safe.
For pawn shop transactions, those were real. The prince led them to Aileen Wuornos. Moore, terrified she'd go to prison for something she didn't do, and overwhelmed by the whole situation.
So why not just sell it if you want to keep the item? Because you got to keep in mind, pawn shops are places where like people are going in times of need if they need money. So if I'm like, damn, I need money, I don't want to sell this chain, but I need the money right now. They'd buy this chain for $6, but pawn it for $4. So if they buy it, I'm not getting it back. But if they pawn it for $4, I could pay them back $4,200, and then they'll just give me my chain back.
Situation eventually agreed to cooperate with the police. She called Aileen repeatedly, asking her to come clean. Each call was recorded. Then, finally, on January 9th, 1991, after days of emotional pressure, Wuornos broke. She told Moore she would confess so Moore wouldn't be blamed. Hours later, police arrested Wuornos at the Last Resort Bar in Volusia County. She didn't resist or try to run.
Volusia.
She simply said she was ready to talk. And she did, describing what happened during each encounter in startling detail, talking herself right into a jail cell. Bodies started appearing.
I mean, that was just stupid, right? Talking herself right into a jail cell. Like, she didn't know. Like, she knew she was going to prison. She was just getting it over with. I feel like I don't know any of these other people. Who the hell is Gary Ridgeway?
In 1982 along the Green River near Seattle. By 1984, the count was over a
my God, dude, it was all in the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Dozen and climbing. Police knew they had a serial offender and interviewed hundreds of men. But no solid leads, no witnesses, nothing. But one name kept coming back, Gary Ridgeway. Ridgeway seemed ordinary, quiet, married, the kind of man neighbors waved to without thinking twice. When investigators first spoke with him in 1983, he played the part perfectly, polite, calm, even helpful. He even agreed to take a polygraph, passed it, and walked away.
Yeah, because polygraphs are pieces of shit and they suck. That's why they're not used in courts of law. And every time you see a polygraph video, it's probably either faked or even if it's real, it's probably wrong.
But the Green River Task Force didn't forget him. Years passed.
Because if polygraph tests were definitively accurate, there's no reason to have like court proceedings for a lot of things. It's just like, hey, did you kill him? No. Okay. The military uses them because it's more accurate than guessing, but it's not like definitive. Like, they're wrong a lot. How do polygraphs even work? You get hooked up to it and there's a needle that like constantly scribbles, and as they ask you questions, usually when you're lying, it'll start going more sporadically in a non-regulated way. So they usually ask you to get like a I guess like a neutral point. They'll ask you a bunch of obviously true statements like, hey, what's your name? Is your name Joe? Did you grow up here? What do you like this? And it's just like, yes, 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 no, 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 yes. And then they ask you serious questions.
Technology finally caught up. DNA profiling advanced enough for cold cases to be retested. So the Washington State Crime Lab took evidence from several Green River victims and ran it through new DNA analysis. The results pointed straight to one man, Gary Ridgeway. On November 30th, 2001, detectives pulled Ridgeway over outside the truck plant where he worked. He didn't run, fight, or even look surprised. When asked if he knew why he was being arrested, Ridgeway simply said, "You got me for the girls." Forensic DNA linked him to 4 victims immediately.
He didn't even ask why he was being arrested? He was just like, oh, here it is.
Fibers from his workplace connected him to others. Everything investigators spent decades chasing finally locked into place. Ridgeway confessed to taking dozens of lives, but really his DNA had already done most of the talking. In the summer of 1977, New York was living.
Dude, it's so weird. It's like I don't know if this is relatable. Like, I recognize this guy's face, but I have no idea who David Berkowitz is. I know this Ed Kenny guy that's pulling up. Who the fuck is David Berkowitz? Like, these are all familiar faces. Like, I've seen these serial killers before, but like outside of like Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, I did know the woman.
1977, New York was living in fear. A man calling himself the...
What year was it?
New York.
Why is this in the 70s? 70s, 80s. 70s, 80s.
York was living in fear. A man calling himself the Son of Sam was moving through quiet boroughs at night, targeting couples in parked cars and leaving taunting notes for police. Detectives had almost nothing. No reliable identification and no forensic evidence solid enough to point to a suspect. But then a parking ticket changed everything. On July 31st, the
oh my God, was it a handwriting or something?
Son of Sam struck again, this time in Brooklyn. A witness had seen a creepy guy angrily ripping a parking ticket off his car just blocks from the crime days earlier. And when she heard bang bangs on the 31st, she realized the locations matched. Her statement sent detectives searching traffic records for every parking ticket issued near that time and place. And they found a name: David Berkowitz. Officers quietly waited outside his apartment. When Berkowitz walked out of his building on August 10th, 1977.
Yeah, NYPD just started tackling that motherfucker. When I was in New York, dude, I walked down this one alleyway. There were no lie 75 police officers. 75 police officers just standing there. They had like some meeting or something. I was like, yo, what is going on? You know when you're not even, okay, is this relatable? You're not even doing anything wrong, bro. When I walk past them, stand up straight. I had a cart in my pocket. I'm like, weed's legal here. I'm just like, hello? Have a nice day. Have a nice day.
Detectives approached with their weapons drawn. Berkowitz smirked, almost like he had been expecting it, and said, well, you got me. What took you so long? Inside his car,
good day, gentlemen.
Police found a duffel bag containing a weapon, maps, and letters written in the same style as the Son of Sam notes. At the station, Berkowitz confessed almost immediately. He claimed he was being pressured by a supernatural presence, and a voice coming from his neighbor's dog was giving him sinister commands from the demon world. Sounds pretty crazy, huh? Well, Berkowitz did later admit to making it all up to appear mentally unstable. Woof. The first time...
Well, okay, I want to say, like, I feel like when you plea insanity, like, it's just mental instability. Because it's like, serial killers are insane. But, like, they're just, like, sadistic insane. It's not, like, insane like they don't know what reality is. So I feel like I always get confused when it's like, oh, he wanted to seem insane. Well, he is fucking insane. He just kills people. Like, he enjoys killing people. That's insane. But it's like, it's not insane in the sense of like, okay, now you get out of the crime.
Nobody believed him. For months in 1972 and 73, young women kept disappearing around Santa Cruz, California. Hitchhiking college students were vanishing without a trace. Despite multiple bodies being found, detectives had no suspect, no surviving victims, and no idea who the co-ed killer was. The case was going cold, and investigators were grasping for leads. Then, everything changed on April 23, 1973, in a way no one expected. The police received a call from a man claiming he wanted to turn himself in. The voice on the line said, "I'm Ed Kemper. I've done some terrible things." The officer on the
Okay, well, this isn't how every serial killer was caught. He just turned himself in.
Phone thought it was a prank. Kemper was friendly with local cops. He'd hung out at a police bar and talked shop with them about ongoing cases. They knew him as a big, gentle guy interested in law enforcement. They had no idea that Big Ed was the co-ed killer. Kemper had to call back multiple times, insisting, practically begging them to arrest him. Finally, detectives...
Bro, what? So you would call the first time and be like, yo, I'm the guy that killed everybody. And they're like, come on, Ed. You're pulling my leg. I'll see you at the bar later. Hangs up on him.
Realized the truth. Kemper...
You're doing a prank call, aren't you?
Wasn't joking. When they finally confronted him in person, Kemper didn't resist. He didn't demand a lawyer and didn't try to negotiate. He simply described everything, step by step, as if he'd been waiting for someone to listen. And now they were all ears. Dennis Rader got away with his crimes for 31 years.
Wow.
Then his ego wrote a check his technology skills couldn't cash. Between 1974 and 1991, someone was terrorizing Wichita, Kansas. 10 people were gone, including 4 members of one family. The assailant sent taunting letters to police and newspapers, describing his crimes in detail, calling himself BTK. Then, in 1991, he just stopped, went silent. The case went cold. Then suddenly, in 2004, after over a decade of silence, Rader made a mistake that destroyed everything for him. It began when a local newspaper ran a story questioning whether BTK was even still alive. Rader couldn't resist the
Well, and that pissed him off, so he was like, yeah, I'm still here.
attention. He took it personally, almost like a challenge. So he wrote back. He began sending packages again. Letters, puzzles, maps, souvenirs. Police couldn't track him. He was careful, cautious, and old school. He left no fingerprints, no DNA, nothing traceable. Investigators feared Wichita's most notorious predator was about to start again. Then Rader asked the question that brought him down. In one letter, he asked detectives, "Can a floppy disk be traced? Be honest." Police, desperate to keep him...
Oh my God, didn't we hear that? Oh my God, what were we watching when somebody asked that shit? They call and they're like, yeah, are floppy disks trackable? And they're like, no.
Wichita's most
But they fucking are.
notorious predator was about to start again. Then Rader asked the question that brought him down. In one letter, he asked detectives, "Can a floppy disk be traced? Be honest." Police...
Why would he ask them that? That's what I don't understand. Like, this guy's so maniacal and smart to hide himself for 20 years. But he letters it -BTK, actively admitting he's the serial killer, and goes, are floppy disks trackable? Like, they're not going to lie to his face.
desperate to keep him talking, lied and said no, it would be safe. It wasn't. Not sure why he would ask the people trying to put him in jail for the past 3 decades. Anyway, on February 16th, 2005, BTK sent a purple Memorex floppy disk to a local TV station. The cybercrimes unit cracked it within hours. Hidden in the disk's metadata was a name, Dennis, and a location, Christ Lutheran Church, Park City, Kansas. A quick search told investigators everything they needed to know. The church council president was a man named Dennis Rader, married, 2 kids, a Boy Scout leader, completely ordinary. Police quietly began surveillance. His daughter had years earlier submitted a medical DNA sample, and investigators were able to obtain a comparison from the lab. It matched biological evidence from old BTK cases. That was it. BTK wasn't a ghost. He was the church guy down the street, and he had turned himself in with a floppy disk. On February 25, 2005, police pulled Rader over while he was heading home for lunch. When detectives arrested...
Dude, what a freaky... Like, what do you think, like, the fucking kids, like, experiences there? Like, you're just, like, with your dad. Maybe you think he's a little weird, but, like, not that crazy. Like, you know, not the crazy to the point where, like, they're like, yeah, your dad killed 10 people and, like, stuffed their bodies in, like, boxes 20 years ago. And he brags about it to the police. Like... baffled. I feel like more than baffled. Like, that would feel surreal.
Arrested him for BTK, Rader sighed, paused, and said, "Oh, I guess I know why." Samuel Little was the most prolific serial killer in American history, and he almost got away with it. Almost. For decades, Samuel Little drifted across the country like a ghost. State to state, town to town, never staying long enough for police to connect the dots. He targeted people who lived on society's margins, and he counted on the fact that no one would link his crimes together. For nearly 40 years, that strategy worked. Everything changed in 2012, when Little was arrested on a warrant for illegal substances. Nothing about his arrest seemed too unusual, but when authorities ran his DNA through the system, it hit on 3 unsolved cases from Los Angeles in the 1980s.
That's wild. They have the database for that. Like, he got charged for something entirely unrelated, and then it just, like, pops up like, ding, 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 36 years ago, this guy fucking killed 3 people.
Detectives interrogated him, but he denied everything. Still, the DNA was undeniable. And while awaiting trial in California, investigators around the country began re-examining cold cases. His travel history matched dozens of unexplained disappearances. Old police sketches, witness notes, and morgue photographs began lining up with his movements. The pattern was unmistakable. Eventually, Little began to confess. Not to 3 cases, not to 10, but dozens. Describing victims, locations, cars, clothing, weather, even the angle of streetlights decades earlier.
And he remembers that shit as an old man from 30 years prior. I always wonder, like, say he didn't get caught, do you think he would have, like, said that shit on his deathbed? Like, do you think he would have been, like, on his, like, on hospice, like, hey, you know, now's the time? No, he would have just died with it.
His memory was disturbingly precise. Over months of interviews, he admitted to taking more than 90 lives. In the end,
90?
And it turned out that Little was the biggest killer in U.S. history.
Really? Samuel Little. I don't know if I've ever heard of Samuel Little. He killed the most people in U.S. history.
Ted Bundy thought he was untouchable.
When did Samuel Little die? Or is he still alive? He died in 2020. 80 years old. Samuel Little was an American serial killer convicted of 8 murders, confessed to 93 between 1970 and 2005. So for 35 years, he was killing people. Oh, my God.
North Little Rock. Tell me what that girl looked like.
Oh, man, I loved her. I forget her name. Oh, wait. I think it was Ruth.
Okay.
She was a...
God, it's so surreal because this just seems like a fucking sweet old man. Oh, my God.
heavy set, big old yellow hair. And had buck teeth. He had a gap between the teeth, that's what it was. And she was like honey colored skin. And she had, like, her hair was not really long.
Wow.
We went to Culver's, and that's where I got busted.
Mm-hmm.
They took me to jail, and she went and stayed in the car. And the manager of Kroger's, I guess he got tired of her laying up in his property in that car. He called the station where I was at in North Arkansas to drop the charges. Mm-hmm. So he can come down and get this gal and car.
Oh, this is like disturbing, dude.
Was headed toward with that place where Walmart.
Oh my God. Because, like, if you muted this, dude, deadass, if you muted this, this would just seem like a story like your grandpa was telling you. Like, he's giggling and being like, you know, telling you, like, cracking, you know, just fucking shit. But he's just talking about murdering somebody.
He was wrong. It all started to fall apart for him on an August night in 1975.
What do you think his family thinks? Well, his family's fucking dead, dude. He was like 80.
When a Utah Highway Patrol officer pulled over a tan VW.
This is the shit that I was talking about, bro. Ted Bundy got away like 9 times, dude. That motherfucker was jumping out of windows and shit. He was on the run. They couldn't find him.
Beetle with its lights off, driving suspiciously through a residential area. Inside was a clean-cut, charming man named Ted.
And I gotta say, bro, like, women were writing him letters and shit, and people were like, Ted Bundy, the hunk serial killer. That motherfucker's unattractive. I'm gonna say right now, he's chopped. Like, I'm not... Bro, he has a fucking bad eyebrows, unibrow. He's got, like, sunken eyes. Bro, I don't understand, like, the fucking... Yo, actually, like, I understand there's, like, this weird obsession, like, certain people have with, like, serial killers, so they get, like, obsessed and write love letters to them. Whatever. But, like, the news stations were, like, reporting on him. Like, they had Didn't they have Zac Efron play him? He mogs you, BP Joe. I'm not even trying to be, like, black pill, bro, but, like, motherfuckers, anytime I see people talk about Ted Bundy in a documentary, they're like, the most attractive man, the most attractive serial killer. I'm like, dude, he looks like an average fucking guy. This picture's creepy.
Charming man named Ted Bundy, along with what looked like a crime kit: handcuffs, rope, crowbar, ice pick, and ski mask. Bundy tried to play it cool, but was still taken in for possession of burglary tools. It was then that
An ice pick is a burglary tool?
Investigators became concerned with something much more chilling than those initial charges. Bundy's tan VW Beetle matched witness descriptions from multiple missing women cases across multiple states. Then came a huge breakthrough. Enter Carol Durant. The year before, a man claiming to be a cop tried to take her against her will from a shopping mall parking lot. She fought like hell and escaped. When police brought her in for a live lineup, she pointed straight at Bundy. He was convicted of that crime in 1976 and sentenced to prison. Now the word was out on Bundy. He could now be tied to a much sentenced to prison. Now the word was out on Bundy. He could now be tied to a much more
He was 29?
sentenced to prison. Now,
yo, he looks 43, bruh. I am not, like, dude, see that, I mean, I'm not trying to just, like, sit here and gripe on this, but, like, that's absurd.
he could now be tied to a much more serious case in Colorado through a combination of witness sightings, timeline evidence, and his travel pattern. So he was extradited to Colorado. And here's where things get really wild. While acting as his own lawyer, he literally jumped out of a courthouse window and escaped. He was free for 6 days before being recaptured. 6 months later, he did it again. Better than
That's what I'm saying, bro. They did just chain him to a fucking metal chair, bro. What? How do they fucking... Bro, he escapes before being captured like 3 times. They get him, he's representing himself in court, and just jumps out a window and fucking runs away. And they're like, oh, he's on the run again. Fucking... Bro, next time he does it again, next time you catch him, bro, chain him to a radiator, dude, while that fucking court proceeding's going on. Put his feet in cement buckets. How do you let him go away that many times?
Bundy crawled through a light fixture in his cell ceiling and walked out the front door of the jail. He made it all the way to Florida. And Florida is where everything unraveled. Bundy just couldn't help himself. He attacked a sorority house in Tallahassee, but he was losing control, getting sloppy. A few weeks later, a Pensacola cop spotted a suspicious VW Bug, this time orange. Man, Bundy really liked those Volkswagens, didn't he? When the police pulled over the car, Bundy fought, kicking, punching, trying to run. But this time his escape was less successful. He gave a fake name, but his fingerprints told the truth. And the FBI's most wanted was finally in handcuffs. Again. Bundy defended himself at trial like it was a performance. The jury wasn't impressed. Ted Bundy's final...
I understand they need a trial, but, like, because it's, like, innocent until proven guilty. Like, that's a needed thing. But it's like, bro, that motherfucker jumped out the window defending himself. Like, he ran.
Escape was on January 24th, 1989, when he met Old Sparky at Florida State Prison.
Oh, Ted Bundy got executed? Who was it? Jeffrey Dahmer? What serial killer was murdered by his cellmate? Yeah, that was Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer was killed by his cellmate.
So which of these do you think wanted to get caught?
Damn, he got the electric chair?
Ed Kemper, clearly. But do you think there was a part of the others that wanted to get caught to stop them and face justice?
Oh, yeah. Harvard cult leader died. That's a fucking watch. Bundy cried all the way to the chair. There was no molecule in his body that wanted to get caught. See, that's abnormal. Because I feel like every other serial killer, it's like they kind of take pleasure in it being over. Whereas he's like, did not want that. And Ted Bundy's the guy that had a fucking wife. All right, I gotta piss again, and we got another video. We're watching a video about the burnt.